Welcome to this video. Today we're going to be exploiting Apache Tomcat. And again, this video is actually attacking Metasploitable, and it is a very vulnerable virtual machine. So just keep in mind that these hacks that I'm doing are fairly easy, and you probably will not see these in the wild, but they're good for illustration purposes, especially through the thought process of what to attack and how to attack it, and give some examples of that. Also bear in mind that it's illegal to hack or attack anything that does not belong to you, or that you do not have express written approval to do. And so don't do anything illegal. So let's go ahead and get started. I begin with a quick Nmap scan, and this scan is verbose. It is a version scan. Metasploitable device is on 1.171, and I use the reason as we talked about in previous videos. So as I go down and I look at the results, which starts right here for the information that I'm concerned with, I notice down here that on port 8180 there is an Apache Tomcat Coyote engine, which is a server engine. Now, we could go straight in now and start looking at vulnerabilities and things like that, but probably the first thing that I would like to do is see if I could access that through a browser. So the way we do that is we just do the IP address with a colon 8180. And let's see if it shows up. So there it is. So we are looking at the landing page. This is Apache Tomcat. It is version 5.5, and so it's a lot of information here. You can kind of go through. You may want to surf through some of these links, obviously, as you're doing your reconnaissance. But really what I'm interested in is getting into this server, getting actually into the back end of this server. So one thing that draws my attention is the Tomcat manager. So usually these things have some sort of sign-in type thing, and I'm guessing that might be it. So as I click that, I see that it does challenge me for credentials. I'm just going to try it one time and just see if admin works. You'll be surprised how many times something like that does work. So it looks like it's not going to work. So in this example, so when I hit cancel, the server shows that it's basically I'm not able to get in. There's a status error of 401. So I hit the back button again and kind of think about what I'm wanting to do. What I'm really wanting to do is I want to get in as an admin, and there are some different roles here. I could read through that. I could try to figure out what they have put on this page. First of all, this is a vulnerability in itself with this information being forward facing, but what I want to do is I would like to maybe scan this. I don't want to continue to try to log in on the interface, because that may make a system or network admin notice that traffic. So I don't want to do that. So I'll go back and again, I'm taking a look at Apache Tomcat, and if I copy that, I'll open another browser window here, and let's just take a look and see if there are any exploits out there for this particular thing. So it does look like that there are some exploits out there. Looks like there's some vulnerabilities out there as well. So at this point in time, looking at what the version is, I don't know here. I saw on the other page that it was 5.5, so I'm making an assumption that that is true. And so I could put 5.5 on this, and we'll see what we get. So I'll put 5.5. And it looks like, yes, there are some vulnerabilities here. I'll click on the exploit database and we'll see what that looks like. So we see that it's unsupported, www authentication. Not really what I'm looking for. I'm really looking for a way to log into the system and get into the back of the system. So I can go to this website and kind of take a look, but really it's not giving me anything that I need. Here's a denial of service. We'll say that's not really within the scope of what we're doing. So what I want to do right now is I want to do a scan, and I want to do a scan within Metasploit. So I have Metasploit set up, and the first thing that I want to do is I want to see if there's any information about Tomcat. So when I run that, I see that there is some information there. There are some auxiliaries. There are some exploits available. So this looks good. It looks like that I may have a possibility of maybe scanning to see what's there. Now, really what I'm wanting is I want to have a manager login. I want to be able to get into the system, and so it's either going to be this one or it's maybe going to be this one. So let me just copy that, and let's get some info on that, and let's see if that might be a good candidate for us to use. So take a look at the description here. This simply attempts to log in with the Tomcat application manager instance using a specific username and password. Well, I don't have a username and password, but what I do have are some library lists or password lists that are actually built in to Metasploit, and I could use my own. I could bring those in and try those as well. So what this is doing is this is going to use a passwords file. It's going to use a users and passwords file, and it's going to look at users from this file. So 3 different password or user word lists, and we'll try again. Some of these word lists are fairly big. Let's just take a quick look and let's see what one of these looks like. So I'll open another terminal and we'll just cd into user share Metasploit, Framework, Data, and Word List. And I'll take a look at LS. So there's quite a few word lists here that are built in, and the ones that it's using are right here. So these three, this one, and this one. So we could do a file on each one of those and see what the size is, just to get a basic idea of how big those word lists are, how exhaustive they are. But we could also do a ls tac LAH, and we could get some human readable information as far as the file size. And if we go down to those files and take a look, and not very big. Now again, we'll use those for this particular tutorial, but you know, it looks like that there's some bigger ones here, but they're also specific to certain things. So in choosing your word list and looking at your word list, you want to make sure that you're using the specific word list, and there's a lot of them out there. If you Google, you'll find that there are thousands of word lists, and some of them are very good and kept up to date. And so those are good for happy hunting, so to speak. You can also see by the size, like for this particular one, that's a pretty good size word list. Again, this being a list, and these are text files as well. But let's take a quick look at one of these. Let's just look at our manager, this particular one. So I'll copy that, and I'm going to cat this out, and let's just see what that looks like. So we see we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 passwords. So it's again not very exhaustive, but we'll certainly, for this illustration, try this out. So I'll just go ahead and exit out of that. So it looks like this might be pretty good. Let's go ahead and use this particular one then. So what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll copy that. We could actually use the number. It's number 23. I'm trying to do this a couple different ways in these videos so you get familiar with how you could do it depending on what you're wanting to do. So I'm just going to paste that in. And now what we want to do is we want to take a look at the options again and see what we need to fill out. So the ones that are yes, we've got a brute force speed. Remember, the higher the number, the louder this is going to be. You really, it depends on the engagement. So if you're doing this from a black box and you're simulating black hat during the engagement, then obviously you want to be a little bit quieter. If you're doing red team, blue team exercises, you don't want to rattle the cage, and bring attention to the fact that you're, basically poking at the firewall with a spoon, so to speak. As we come down, we do see that the password files are automatically filled. We will need to put our host, so I'm going to go ahead and set the our host. And again, the our host is the target, and so I'm just going to put 192.168.1.171. That's going to be our target. We also have our port. Now it automatically populates with 8080, but that's really not the one that we want. This one is actually on 8180. So we need to go ahead and set the our port to 8180. Now as we come down a little bit, the number of concurrent threads is 1. You could uh, you know, bump that up a little bit if you wanted to. We'll stay with 1 for now. Usernames not needed. We've got the word list. Again, this is a dictionary attack. We do want to take a look at this particular setting right here. So this is a very short word list. In fact, all 3 of these word lists are fairly short. So the verbosity that we're doing is really not going to be too important. But what I'll do is I'll run these with verbose true and then false. Now where this would really be an issue is if you had a word list that was 50,000 words long. Well, you may not want to scroll through the results because it's going to show every negative, and then in all of those negatives there's going to be hopefully a positive one where you actually have the username and password. So keep that in mind. Again, I'll run it both ways. I'll leave it at true for the first run, and then we'll change it just so you can see how much easier it is to let the program show you just the positive results. So again, I'll run this. Just going to take a look at the options to make sure it populated again, that I didn't fat thumb the IP address or what have you. 8180 is set. It looks like we're good to go. Verbosity is true. So let's just run this and let's see what happens. So it starts off, it starts running, and we get a lot of failed login attempts. Now, hidden in all of this noise is actually a successful login. So again, if you have a password file, a list that is, 50,000 long, you're really not going to want to sort through something that looks like this and try to figure out, okay, where is it? And sometimes it would be in line depending on the length of the password. It wouldn't even be like indented here. You do have this little green plus sign over here, but let me caution you with that as well. So if I were doing a real engagement where I have to produce a report, I'm not going to be running my terminal with white text on a black background. The reason why is I need to reproduce these terminals for the client, and I'm probably going to take screenshots of that and put it in my report. Well, if I take a screenshot of this and put it in the report with white text on a black background, it's going to be very hard to read, especially if the client makes copies of the report to distribute or what have you, or prints them out even. It's going to waste a lot of black ink in doing this. So what I do first of all is I start with black text on a white background. You probably saw that when I had the slingshot VM up, the white background and black text. It's a little easier to see. It's a lot easier to take a screenshot of and put in a report. And remember, you have to document everything you've done for the engagement. So again, don't rely on having colors. You may have them, you may not have them. Again, if you do a white background and black text, this green may not show up depending on the particular presets that you have in here, the preferences for the terminal. So let's run that again, and let's kind of sort this down just a little bit. What I want to do is I want to set my verbose to false. Now, the way that it is written here is lowercase, and so I can use lowercase in this. Keep in mind that if you're using like Python or something like that, or another scripting language, and you're writing a script, the capital and the smaller case is obviously going to mean something, and it may actually break your script. So in this case, I can use faults using the tab to auto correct. I'm going to take one more look at that to make sure that it took the change, and it looks like it did. It's false. So let me just use the up arrow. I'll run that again. Now, doesn't that look a lot better? So instead of printing out everything, it shows me exactly what I have. So it looks like Tomcat is the user and Tomcat is the password. Not very good security here. So again, this would be in my report. The last thing is, if it's within the scope of the event that I actually exploit it, then I would want to come back to this page and try Tomcat and Tomcat, and we're in. So I hope that this was useful to you. Again, at least for the thought process uh, of uh, of getting into reviewing the scan and using the information in the scan and turning it into something that you can use. So until next time, happy hunting.